You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Saturday Omaha.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.
Hey, this is Dave with Saturday Omaha, and we are sitting in studio with another wonderful guest who has joined me on an exceedingly hot day. I was going to say rare barbecue, good barbecue is rare in Omaha. That's not true. We have some really good barbecue spots in Omaha, and I'm going to double down on that. Mm-hmm. And one of those awesome spots is Jay's Smokehouse, and I happen to have James Hawk in here, who happens to know a thing or two about barbecue. James, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. First and foremost, thanks for taking time out of your day when you've got a billion things to do to come and, chit-chat food with me.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I have been a fan of your queue for quite some time. Did you start as a food truck? Was that
started as a tent.
As a tent. Okay.
Yeah, we started as a tent at the karate school on that 66th and Cornhusker. It's just me and my mom out there and my kids sometimes, and we're just serving out, pork and brisket sandwiches, beans, and, kind of simple sides, coleslaw, stuff like that. And we actually ordered our food truck, and we were waiting on that for a few months.
Aha.
So,
okay.
Yep. We wanted to get our foot in the door and start letting people try our food.
What year, give or take a bit, did you start?
It was October of 2021.
2021. Okay, so you missed the pandemic startup issue that a lot of restaurants are like, yeah, we're open in 2020. It was like wham, and they got you. So
without the pandemic, we might have not even actually decided to do barbecue. I was in a car dealership business for 7 years. I worked in the service department, so I had a great job. Service kind of slowed down a little bit, and I started a hobby, and that hobby was barbecue in my backyard. And
wow,
that's where it started.
Okay, so you anticipated a secondary question, which was like, hey, how did you get started in barbecue? So you just started as a backyard, weekend barbecue warrior.
Pretty much. My grandpa I cooked my first rack of ribs, when I was 10 years old or so, maybe 12, with my grandpa in Oklahoma. So that was the first kind of introduction to barbecue for me, was my grandpa in Oklahoma. He took me to all the good spots, and so maybe that COVID kind of flared up my need for a hobby, and that kind of just came up. So,
do you remember what your first smoker was that you started using?
As far as, I was a Oklahoma Joe's, one of the dual, one of them's gas, one of them's charcoal, with a little side attachment. So that was my first one. And then I saw on Facebook a little Brinkman. It's like $100. It was kind of rusty and stuff, but I went and picked that up. That was my first one, my backyard smokers. But yeah,
you saw an opportunity to branch out into a business then on your own. That's a big leap there. So sounds like the change in shifting at your primary job then kind of gave you an opening there, and you kind of walk through that door. And that's one of those things that always interests me is hey, I'm going to go out on my own and do this. Yeah. And so when did it, what was the progression then from tent to brick and mortar? Because you guys had the space within the karate school that you were serving food at, which is where I first encountered your food.
Yeah, we got tired of being outside in the elements, and I'm like, hey, let's build something inside. They kind of already had a little break room, snack area.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too much that we had to build out, because our model was as little equipment as possible. So when you cook barbecue, you need a smoker and then something to hold it hot.
Sure.
And then a cutting board to slice it. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. And that's kind of what that kitchen was set up for.
Wonderful. Well, I have to tell you, so, the thing with Saturday and how the show got started, as far as myself and my co-host would go out on Saturday to eat something awesome for lunch, and we would tend to eat a little lighter during the week or whatever, and we're going all out on Saturday, right? So Saturday lunch became Saturday lunch, whatever. But we're always looking for interesting spots that serve the best food. Nothing wrong with our chain restaurants around town and things like that. But we're looking for something unique and awesome, and that's what it was. So I have to say, encountering your barbecue, in a karate school. Like, there's practice going on. People are throwing punches and kicks, and I'm in there with like brisket and ribs. It was just fun from that standpoint. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I miss the karate school. I miss that element of it. It's kind of like in Kansas City, the gas station barbecue. Sure. It's just a different spot. And we got Norm's on 48th Street here in Omaha.
Oh yeah,
in that gas station. So that those little cool situations where we just pop a kitchen out of nowhere it's fun to be there, and it gets a lot of people intrigued. So.
Yes, yeah, it definitely has the intrigue factor, although a very small spot at that time. Yeah. In the karate school and that type of location, somebody just driving by, you're going to get a few of those, but trying to get major traffic and kind of build things is probably kind of tough because you're down a little bit. Not in a hole, but it was like kind of just off a Cornhusker there, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
And we relied a lot on the students and their parents that brought their kids to the karate school. So they, they bought a lot of barbecue. It's always there. You always got to smell it every time you come in. So they would leave with a couple pounds of brisket,
That's and I suppose after throwing punches and kicks all day, you're probably pretty hungry. You need some protein to build muscle. It's a natural fit there. So.
Exactly.
Well, so from there you moved into downtown Papillion.
Yep.
At the Legion there, and you had quite a bit more table space. You did a real nice setup with TVs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so what was the progression, or maybe some challenges even going from like tent to karate school to you and your mom to like, okay, now we're like full service, different. Like, what kind of things did you encounter there?
Oh, it was huge. It was a big move. It really showed us kind of what we could do with our food and how many people we can feed. So, initially, when we were at the karate school, we still ran the food truck. We would go to events like Junk Stock and late nights at the zoo and stuff like that. So we kind of knew what it was like feeding a tremendous amount of people. I mean, at Junk Stock, you'd have a line of 100 people waiting. So that really helped us kind of learn how to deal with the crowds. And then once we moved into the Legion, the karate school is a lot of takeout. People weren't dining in as much. The Legion, you had the takeout plus everybody that wanted to dine in, and you had the bar, full service bar, drinks and stuff like that. Yeah, it was a huge shift, but we were ready for it. Yeah. And I mean, grand opening, I think we had a huge line out the door, and every spot was filled. People were looking for seats. So, it was huge. It taught us a lot, how to manage our staff, because you're selling all that barbecue, things get a lot dirtier. You got to maintain your kitchen a lot more. You got to teach, all of your new employees to really care for the place. And
just having multiple employees, because I'm assuming you had to double, triple, quadruple your staff.
Yeah, we went from me and my mom and Kaylee, my girlfriend, running it at the karate school basically by ourselves to a full, 12, 14-person staff. So.
Wow, that's a big change there too. And if I recall, so you had a nice smoke shack there and like two pretty good sized smokers. So did you expand smoker wise then from the karate school, or were they just moved, or like?
Yeah, we had to double our smoker space basically. Yep.
Okay, and so let's bring to present day, because now instead of being inside the karate school, being inside the Legion, being inside a tent somewhere, which are all awesome things, but now your name is up in lights on your own brick and mortar. So how's that going? Because as we're sitting here, like, this is a pretty recent in the grand scheme of Jay's.
Yeah. Within the last month. Yeah, for sure. It's huge for me to have my own place and be able to put my own pictures up on the wall and be able to make it our own. You just care for it that much more.
Sure.
So that was huge for us. The scale is, it's a little smaller. Area, not as many seats, but that allows us to kind of slow down what we're doing and really focus on the culinary aspect of it.
Yeah.
Instead of, pumping out 60 brisket sandwiches at once, you kind of get to slow down the plating. You get to focus on a little bit more and introduce some more things to the menu, specials and stuff like that. So we feel great about it right now.
Oh, it's a great space. Yeah. And when I had first stopped in, I think you're just getting your sign like hung up like that day. Is the sign still up after our windstorm that we had?
Yeah, that's our temporary banner. So we have a full electric sign that we have ordered. It still has to be approved and everything. So
sure,
it'll be a few weeks on that, but yeah, it'll light up and say Jay's Smokehouse. I'm super excited about that.
What's the address of the new place? Because that's the most important thing, so people know where to get barbecue, right?
4725 South 96th Street, Omaha. It's right on the corner of that 96th and L Plaza inside that strip mall.
Perfect. So a good spot, people can see it from the street, which is cool.
I think it's a better spot than we had in Papillion because, you get people that want to try your food from West Omaha. They got to drive an extra 10 minutes to Papillion after they get off the interstate.
Sure.
So that adds a lot. People can get to our spot from almost anywhere about 10 minutes less time. So
it's definitely good because either if you're coming from the south or east, you can get off on 84th Street, or you can get off on the 108th or whatever the exit is out there if you're coming from the other direction.
Yeah.
So, and if you're coming from way out of town, you still have interstate exits all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So for the smokers, then were you able to move them closer? Do you have enough room for them?
There's enough room. There's an alleyway in the back that we don't have the shed anymore. So they're not out of the elements, but that's okay.
I mean, I don't know much about the smokers that you have, but as far as temperature control and the Nebraska climate certainly shifts greatly. Right now, today, my car thought it was 101 degrees, and then it's supposed to be like 80 tomorrow or something. So does that affect things a little bit?
It does. The pressure, it affects the pressure, air pressure, humidity, stuff like that. So with the shed, we had stacks running out the top of it, and that kind of affected the pressure. So it was a lot. You had to have a lot more pressure
to get it up the stack.
Get it up the stack. So
okay.
We had issues with that, but we adjusted to that. So yeah, it's a little bit different now because even the angle that they sit on, if they're tilted a little bit towards the front, then the smoke runs like if you have meat in the back of the smoker, it's gonna get cooked faster than the meat in the front. Because it changes the angle, and then the smoke, rises, so heat rises, so it changes the hot points.
Do you have to rotate where, like, if you got a brisket sitting on the front or whatever, do you have to move things during the day to make sure to take advantage or of those hot spots?
Now we do, now that it's at a tilt. So we had to, that's something that I noticed when I was cooking. I'm like, these front briskets, they're not getting the color that I need on the bark. So I got to switch them, halfway through the cook with the back ones so they're even.
Yeah, and how long does a Jay's Smokehouse brisket typically take to make?
It's hard to say. I've had some be done in 6 hours, some 12. It's really about feel and color for us. So if the bark isn't, that black color, it's not ready to wrap yet. And you get a brisket that's the size of Texas, and then you get one that's tiny. So it all varies. We do it by feel and color.
So, and a range there, but it's certainly not done in, 20 minutes or anything like that.
Right.
I think Omaha is, because the number of good barbecue spots we have in town has been increasing, I think hopefully people are realizing that when somebody is sold out, there's a reason, because you just can't go in the back and whip up another one. It takes hours, like we just said, minimum 6, maybe 12, maybe 16, just depends on what it is. And when it's gone, it's gone. So, be aware.
Yeah. And I'm a numbers guy. I crunch numbers, and we did the food truck. Ran the food truck for the first 3 years, so I really got my numbers down as far as what I need, what we did last Thursday. Now there's last week on any specific day, and you really kind of tone it in. There is days where we sell out of stuff, at like 7 o'clock, an hour before we close, which is prime time for sellout time. So if anybody wants to get the good stuff, ribs, brisket, and stuff like that. Those usually sell out around 7:30 if they're going to. But otherwise, we do a pretty good job about it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the part of, being the business owner there. You want to make sure that everybody has what they want, but also so you don't lose product.
Yeah, you don't want to waste, because we don't reheat anything. So, like, if our ribs don't sell at the end of the night, you'll see me post $20 slabs on our page just to get them out. I'd rather sell them and not make any money off of them than throw them away.
Sure.
Because, at least you're getting people in, they're trying your food.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our concept.
So with the current menu, did it change from either your prior two locations, or how does the menu look currently?
The menu's the same as it was at the Legion. But yeah, from the karate school to the Legion, we added so much. At the karate school, it was just, brisket, ribs, pork. You can get a sandwich, maybe on top of some mac and cheese. Kind of a simpler menu.
Yeah.
When we moved to the Legion, we were able to do tacos, smash burgers, all sorts of stuff. So, and we have specials like pho, like brisket pho.
Nice.
That we run all the time. We're working on a torta right now. So that's why I kind of talked to you earlier about
we were
tortas.
off mic and you're like, I got to make some tortas later. So
yeah, so I'm in the process of that. And what I do is I go around town and I try them from every restaurant and kind of not see what they do, but how do they do it?
Sure.
And what makes theirs good?
Yeah.
And that's important to me because I don't want to put anything on our menu or special that's not going to be not going to blow someone away.
Yeah.
I want the wow factor. So.
Do you have a culinary background, or is this just all you just like food? And
I just love food. I like creating food. I have no culinary background. The only culinary background I have, do you remember those old shops you could go in and make meals? They have the recipes and stuff. You do a little bit of chicken and then the bakes that you make. My mom used to take me to those all the time, and when I was a kid, that's about the only culinary background I have.
Nice. But you must like to eat because your menu's pretty darn delicious.
Yeah, so. I love to eat. I love to make food.
And I must confess, you mentioned your burger, and I haven't had it yet, and it looks amazing. So that looks like quite the winning creation for you guys. So
yeah, you got to have the crispy edges. My favorite one is the McHulk Smash, which I don't know if I'll get in trouble for naming it that, but it's got mac and cheese on the top and then salsa verde. And the salsa verde and the mac and cheese just make a flavor. It's out of this world. It's so good. It's my favorite burger.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Good.
All right. Got that on the awesome list then.
Yeah.
And what are all the meats you guys are serving right now? So we mentioned brisket and ribs. What's all on the menu?
Pulled pork and then our jalapeno cheddar sausage, which we get from Syracuse Farms down in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic sausage. I mean, it's some of my favorite. I wouldn't put it on the menu if I didn't like it. So
that's fair. So you would eat everything on the menu then?
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough. That's kind of why we like to break away from traditional barbecue menus and do our tacos and smash burgers. Ultimately, because I like to eat something new when I get to the restaurant. Yeah. And when I make it, I'm like, we should add this to the menu because I'm sure my customers probably feel the same way. They don't want to have ribs every week, once a week. It's
sure.
That's a little much.
Yeah.
Maybe once a month is kind of the consensus I get from most people is about once a month for barbecue. But, we get our regulars that come in once a week or every other day.
Yeah. Well, I always have a hard time not getting brisket every time because it's so good. I mean, any barbecue place that I go to, especially when it's awesome. So. Yeah. So speaking of brisket, so do you trim your briskets before you put them on the smoker?
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. We had done a brisket making show, so I learned a little bit about trimming brisket. I'm not even going to put myself in the novice category.
Is that with Wayne?
Yeah, down at Smoke and Barrel.
Yeah.
And so he entrusted me with a brisket, and we kind of trimmed them side by side. And you were mentioning that airflow in the smoker, and Wayne's move is, hey, I want this to look kind of like an airplane wing, so that the air moves over there. So, what's your philosophy or move on trimming brisket?
And he's exactly right. It's kind of about aerodynamics, and I know that's kind of weird, but it is. I make mine. He says airplane wing. I say race car.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just want the back of the brisket's bigger than the front. So when the smoke rolls over it, you really want it to evenly go over the whole front, or else you're going to have spots that don't. The bark doesn't get dark enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't set right. So. We trim quite a lot off of our briskets, but we use our trimmings for our smash burgers.
Oh, nice.
So we're able to to reuse that. But yeah, we like to keep about a 1/4 inch of fat on the top. especially towards the flat part. They call it dry versus wet. You have your fatty versus lean.
Yeah.
So the lean part we keep about a 1/4 inch, and then when you get towards the fatty, we almost take it all the way down, just because we notice it's almost too fatty when you leave it. So
yeah, there's a good ratio there where it's good, and then maybe where it's a little overload.
Yeah, the fat's in the middle when you get to the back. It's intermuscular.
As far as trimming briskets and all these, you're just totally self-taught and through experience or through experimenting? And
it's at this point it's experience. It was YouTube channels,
sure,
the famous Aaron Franklin,
of course.
So that's where it started, in my backyard, and I just kept getting better and better. And the more you cook, the more you realize kind of what you need to do trim wise to get a perfect brisket.
And if you not, first of all, don't give away any industry secrets you don't want to give away, or anything.
There's no
like
secrets
that.
here.
Perfect. So from a seasoning perspective,
yeah,
what do you guys season your briskets with?
Salt and pepper.
Just salt and pepper.
Yeah. So, no garlic, no onion, nothing. Just salt and pepper. When you start mixing the other stuff in, it kind of messes with your ratio of salt and pepper. And those are your two most important with the brisket. So
sure.
I took those out and never looked back.
Same thing with Smoke and Barrel does the same, just salt and pepper. So would you call it a Texas style brisket, or is it just like, no, this is a J Smokehouse brisket?
I'd call it a Central Texas style.
Central Texas style. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And salt and pepper being, good Texas move on there too. So some smokers are rotisserie smokers, some are not. Is your guys's a rotisserie style or no?
Ours is an outdoor smoker. It's a offset.
Okay.
It's not a rotisserie, so we have to hand rotate every meat. And it's a reverse flow. So you have your firebox, and that runs under a big piece of metal.
Okay.
That runs along the whole smoker, and then it lets some air out on the other end. And that's the air that goes over your meat, and then the stack is on the same side as the firebox.
Got you.
So it kind of runs through and then back up top and then out the top.
So that airflow is very key. And when you're mentioning that it's at an angle and it just changes everything, so you've got to adjust and adapt there too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had, that because you have a few briskets that don't come off the smoker right. And I have people, I don't do all the smoking myself. I have a pit master that helps me.
Awesome.
So I'm not there every day. So, I come in and I notice that, hey, this doesn't look quite right. Let's figure out what's going on. So
yeah,
it's a lot of trial and error. So that's why it's super important for, our customers, if I'm there or, any of our staff is there to, if they have an issue with our food or anything, bring it up to them, because then we're going to be able to fix that for, the next person that gets to try our brisket. So we might just take that whole brisket off the block. And
oh, wow. So somebody's like, hey, wait a minute. And you're like, oh, nope, not happening.
Yeah. So. It's a lot of meat to deal with.
Sure.
So any help we can get.
Yeah, no doubt. And that feedback, like you said, is important, and to the restaurant right away, because the thing is, you want to see a smile on somebody's face after they eat it. So if there's something that somebody's not satisfied with, just raise your hand and go, hey, can you help me out here? So
yeah,
and I'm sure you will. So
yeah,
that's awesome. So what's the trick to getting that good bark? So one of the things that I really enjoy about your brisket, and when I had stopped in and saw you last time, I had the brisket mac and cheese, two of my favorite things, brisket and mac and cheese, all in one thing. But that bark on there is so key for me in bringing brisket to the next level. So how do you get it to build up so nicely too?
Yeah, and the bark is the flavor. That's where you get your flavor. So yeah, it's super. That's the most important thing to me. So we don't wrap the briskets. We'll wrap one brisket at a time if we have to. We don't do them all at once. We just we really make sure that the airflow is good from the smoker. The fire's good. You can put too much wood on, not enough wood on, and that also varies with the humidity. So it's kind of a science experiment.
Yeah.
Over time, you just learn, that bark's ready. It's ready to be wrapped. It's got to have the right color, it's got to look right. Some bark, it can get dark enough, but then you go to like touch it and it like kind of moves around. So my thing is, you touch it and it sticks and it doesn't slide around, you're ready to wrap.
do you have a temperature that you shoot for typically, or is it more feel than anything else?
It's more feel. I think a lot of people undercook their briskets. I think they're kind of too scared. Well, because people tell them 199, 204. They get all this stuff in their head that they think it has to be done at that temperature.
Yeah.
And it's not true. You'll have one brisket that's done at 209. You'll have one that's done at 204. It just depends on how it feels.
Sure.
You got to do the bend test. You got to make sure that it feels, I call it fluffy.
So. Yeah, that for sure. And so, because when you bend it, you should be able to bend it well. And then after you slice it too, I mean, I like a good thick slice of brisket. That's my favorite. Nothing wrong with a thin slice or a chop or whatever too. They're all delicious. But I really like to get a thick slice where it's like you can do the accordion test, give it a little pull and see a little fat in there and see it move and it doesn't break and fall apart. There's some moisture in there too, some fat in there, some flavor.
Exactly. Yeah. And you'll notice, Kansas City style barbecue is, it's thinner sliced brisket. I've noticed a lot of people when you have to slice it thin like that, it means you didn't cook it enough. Because when you cook it more, it kind of breaks down the intermuscular fat and it gets a little more wiggly.
Oh, sure.
So when you try to slice it thin like that, it just falls apart. There's no slicing it thin.
It's just
it's got to be
happening.
Thick. Yeah.
Got you. Oh, yeah, because you would just end up with like little pot roast looking pieces if you weren't careful there or anything like that.
Exactly.
I focus on brisket so much because it's probably my favorite.
But everybody's favorite.
I mean, it's so good. Yeah. But what about ribs? What's a J Smokehouse rib?
Yeah. So interesting enough, I hadn't mastered ribs before I opened J Smokehouse. So it wasn't even on our menu to begin with. And I was actually one thing I was really afraid to put on the menu just because I hadn't mastered it. And now we're in the big leagues, and I'm like, I got customers that got to try it, and my family doesn't even like them yet. That was a big hurdle for me, but the second I served them, and got the feedback from the customers that tried them, I knew it was something that I wanted to put on the menu full time. Again, I just use salt and pepper for the ribs, smoke them until the color and the bark sets nice, and then I wrap them with a super easy homemade sauce, just like brown sugar or butter, brown sugar, apple cider vinegar, and some paprika, salt.
What type or what cut of rib are you guys using?
Yeah, so we're St. Louis cut.
Okay.
Baby backs just don't quite have enough fat, intermuscular fat. But I still love baby backs.
Sure.
I love them all.
Oh,
but
yeah.
St. Louis ribs are a little more forgiving. So
and do you take the membrane off of the ribs before? No, you leave it on.
Leave it on.
Gotcha, because that's totally a pitmaster choice there too, right?
Yeah, I think if you cook it right, you don't even notice the membrane's there.
Gotcha.
As long as you break down the fat and everything correctly, you won't even notice it's there.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I have had some where the cook. And again, up to the restaurant's choice. But I have had some ribs where it's like you're getting a sheet of plastic on your ribs, and I'm not a fan of that. I will go through and take it off. So, from your philosophy, if it's cooked well and cooked right, it's like you don't even notice. It's just part of the eat there. Yeah, that's fantastic. And as far as from a rib temperature, what do you look for in a done rib?
That's definitely feel.
Yeah.
I don't temperature any of my ribs, so you gotta bend test, same thing. Once it's in the foil wrapped with the sauce, you feel one, it's a little stiff. You feel the next one, you'll know when it's done. It folds, and then it doesn't bounce back.
So I think too that the food audience are becoming more and more educated about barbecue and stuff too, because I think historically people are like, oh, I want the fall off the bone ribs, but that's really probably not what you're searching for. Everybody's got their choice and preferences. Let's get that out there real quick. But if you have something where the bone, it doesn't fall off the bone, but where the bone gives a little resistance, and then you can actually still pull it out if you work at it enough, is kind of the move.
Yeah, you want to be able to twist the bone out, basically. Yeah, it shouldn't pull straight out. You should have to give it a little twist to get it out. When they fall off the bone, they're technically overcooked, but like you said, everybody has their preference. I mean, we've gotten nailed before because our ribs weren't fall off the bone.
Oh, really?
So it's like everybody has their preference. Yeah, I prefer, like you said, you should be able to bite it off the bone.
Yeah. So yeah, you need like a rib handle, and so you can get at it. But I mean, and honestly though, like as long as it tastes good and you like it, who cares?
Yeah, you could gnaw it off the bone.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You can work at it a little bit for sure. So we talked about, you have the sausages from Syracuse, Nebraska. Awesome. Tell me a little bit about the philosophy on the sides and stuff on the menu. What are some of your favorites, or what are some of the ones that you kind of put your own special touch on, that type of thing?
So the street corn, the Mexican street corn, is probably my favorite. We've gone towards more of a Mexican influence in our menu. So that kind of came along with that. And it's by far my favorite. It's refreshing. Yeah. It's good. I love it. We do a cucumber tomato salad, which we don't have all the time. That's kind of a hit or miss menu item.
Sure.
But that's super refreshing, especially in the summer months. It's really good. The beans, our beans have been the same since we opened. We add, if we're cutting on the chop block and we have a piece of brisket that's like, I don't want to put that, we'll put that in our beans throughout the day. So they have meat in them. They're good. We got our mac and cheese, which is probably one of our most popular. On a food truck day, I think at Junk Stock, we went through like 300 pounds of mac and cheese.
Oh my gosh.
On the weekend. So it's quite a bit. Yeah, the mac and cheese is probably the most popular.
I love mac and cheese with my barbecue, and again, this is another preference thing. I prefer a really creamy mac and cheese, which you guys totally deliver on, so I enjoy that myself. Some people like a good, drier baked mac and cheese, and that's fine too. I love all mac and cheeses, but the creamy ones are good. And when I came out, I had the mac and cheese bowl, and so there's definitely good creamy mac and cheese with my brisket, which is delicious.
That was one of our first food truck items, where the meat on the mac and cheese. So
and it's easy handheld too. I could see that on the truck. It's like the way that the brisket is cut and the way the mac and cheese is, you could walk around with it and eat it and be fine. So
simple to make. You don't have to add a bunch of ingredients. You don't have to saute anything.
Just go.
Yep.
Yeah, and I like too that you had mentioned the corn and some of the kind of fresher salads too, because that's one of those things too where barbecue can be a pretty intense food, very heavy, and it's nice to have some kind of lighter options too to kind of break it up if you want to move that route.
Yeah, that's kind of why we added those, because like I said, I can't eat barbecue every day. I gotta have something that breaks it up for me.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you're going to be at the restaurant too, that way you've got something there that that you can have too. And so as far as the delivery methods of barbecue at Jay's, so we talked about the brisket mac and cheese. You've got sandwiches. What about like platters and things like that? Like what's if somebody wants to try one of everything, how does that go down?
Yeah, we have our 1, 2, and 3 meat platters where you get 2 sides with them, and you get to pick whatever meats you'd like. We have our Texan feasts, or 3 to 5 Texans and 8 Texans, and then also our sampler platter, which is huge. A lot of people order that just when they first get here. It's like $32, I think. I might be wrong. It might be 35. I can't remember, but it's cheap, and they get to try a little bit of everything. That was important just because we were new.
Yeah.
So
please don't ever take the sampler platter off the menu. So that was the very first thing I think I had when you were still in the karate school, was the sampler platter. So from the show's perspective, from a Saturday perspective, I always want to try one of everything on the menu wherever I am. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. Like that's the best. It's like, oh sweet, like my optimal breakfast move is probably like, I would like 1 pancake, like a half a waffle, 1 piece of French toast, and it's this kind of same thing with my barbecue. I want to eat it all, but I've only got room for so much. Yep. Although the sampler platter is not small at all. I mean, you feeding 2 people with that, unless you're just insanely hungry, is very possible for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of geared towards more 2 people. Yeah, for sure.
So good. And refresh my memory, you may have just said it, but what all is on the sampler platter?
So you get the brisket, ribs, pulled pork, sausage, so all the meats, it's about a 1/4 pound of each, maybe a little less. And then you get 3 sides of your choice.
That's a lot of food. That is a lot of food.
Yeah.
That really truly is the sampler there. So, yeah. So what's the feedback been like on the, as far as maybe some long timers coming in the restaurant now and seeing the new place and things like that? What are kind of the good things that people are saying?
Yeah, they love it. They love the new space. They like how we have a, open window. You can, get some natural light in. That's important. Just the vibes overall, they say, are better. Yeah, we got all sorts of pictures up on the wall. I don't know if you saw him with the barbecue tourist.
I did.
Yeah. I saw him. He was on your podcast a while ago.
Yes.
Yeah, great guy, Ryan Cooper. He's been with us almost every step of the way. He tried us at the karate school as well. So
nice.
Yeah, a lot of good feedback and a lot of new feedback too. We're reaching a new customer base. So, the second we moved in there, I noticed a lot more Google reviews, a lot more Facebook recommendations, and a lot of people that have been able to try our food that maybe haven't in the past. So
absolutely. And so regarding the artwork, so we've got barbecue tourist on the wall, but so tell me about some of the other artwork. Is there like, why those pictures?
Yeah. So, there's one of them that kind of stands out. It's a picture of just a bunch of stickers, looks like on a wall. That's actually the kitchen door to the place that we just moved into. And I thought it was so cool. Every restaurant put a little piece of themselves, a little sticker, bumper sticker. Every time I look at the door, I see a new one that I hadn't noticed before.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. How didn't I notice that? So I decided to snap a picture of it and print it out on a big canvas and put it out so everybody could see. Hopefully there's nothing offensive on there that I haven't seen yet, but
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
It's kitchen staff. What could be on there?
Yeah.
That's cool. And it looks like maybe, do you have pictures like family up there and stuff too? Or like, what are some of the other ones that are up there?
Not really much family. There's, one of me and Ryan Cooper. Way is one of our friends that comes into town and snaps pictures for us all the time.
Oh, yeah.
She's friends with Ryan. So he introduced me to her. So she had stopped by and she did a photo shoot at the Legion at our old location.
Gotcha.
And I used a lot of those pictures for that. So
perfect.
I need to have her come back. She's across seas right now. Need to have her come in and sign them with the Sharpie.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. She comes in every once in a while. I think she was involved in setting up Senti, the ice cream place, or the gelato place. So
she gives me free gelato all the time.
How can you go? Now that's a good friend right there.
Yeah.
If you get free good barbecue and some free ice cream or whatever, that's good.
Okay.
Are there any desserts on the menu currently at Jay's?
Not right now.
Not right now.
No, we haven't really been focused on that. It's more the barbecue side of it, how we can perfect that, make that better. And that's kind of my goal, is just to keep getting better and better. And I think desserts are tough because a lot of places don't make them in-house. They, get them from other places. And if it's me, I want to make it in-house, and I just don't have time for it right now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, if you get that sampler platter, you're not having room for it anyway. So your portion sizes are Saturday appropriate for sure. So there's not small plates there. So especially with that sampler, I mean that's a good size one too.
Yeah. So I want to make sure people get a good portion. And barbecue's expensive, so we realize that, it's kind of a price shock when you look at some of the prices of things, but we want to make it worth your while. So
from that perspective, I mean, when somebody sees a $15 or a $20 or whatever price on there, what are some of those things that you feel goes into that price? I mean, we already talked a little bit about how long the food takes. It's not like you can take a burger and just throw it on
right.
You can if it's a burger, but for like a brisket or some of those other things, like kind of what goes into making it that way? Yeah.
So it's, paying staff for the amount of time to cook it. It's also the skill. It took a lot to learn the skill.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, I mean, we don't charge really anything extra that we don't feel is necessary. So it's like, I don't charge extra for my skill. As a restaurant, you're supposed to do your costs and then, multiply it by a certain amount, and that's your selling point. So brisket has just gotten really expensive.
Oh my gosh, it's gotten crazy these last couple of years.
Yeah. So, when you see the sticker price at a store of a brisket, say it's $4 a pound. What a lot of people don't realize is once you go to cook that and render all the fat out, it decreases by about 40%. So let's say 50%. Let's just say 50%. It's easier. So that means you're $4 a pound. You have half the amount of pounds that you had to start with. So you're paying $8 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where a lot of restaurants, I'm like, how are you guys even charging this for your brisket? Like, you need to charge more.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making anything on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, at a restaurant, especially this day and age, if you have something on your menu that you're not making money on it, that's not good.
Yeah.
So,
you want the restaurant to keep going because no one wants to see their favorite place close.
Yeah, exactly. So that's important to us. And there's a balance. When people buy 30 pounds of brisket, obviously it's going to be cheaper than 1 pound. So we work with everybody. It's like, we know stuff's expensive. We don't want to gouge you at all, but whatever the price on the menu is, it's been well thought out, and take all that into account. And
time, staff, you got to keep the lights on. You've got to, take care of all those things. You've got to, there's credit card processing fees and, soda machine rental or purchase or however that works.
Yep.
And I mean, the small things that maybe people don't think about, like, forks and salt packets and to-go bags and containers and things like that. There's a lot of things there, and a lot of times the margins for all that stuff are very small, and you have to be able to have a consistent product and pay good people so that they can make good food to put on that plate, for sure.
Yeah, that's super important, is paying the people that do a great job. You got to pay them well.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work, especially barbecue. I consider it an art just because you learn something every day. Even with me, I've been doing it for how long? Or 5 years probably. Yeah. 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And you learn something new every day. So that's kind of what art is about. You learn something new about it every day.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of, art and, different paints and mediums and et cetera. So every pitmaster has their own choice. We talked about salt and pepper on the brisket. So going with a, very straightforward, delicious seasoning maneuver. How about woods? What are you smoking with?
Yeah, we use oak. It's a mixture of white, mostly white, a little bit of red. Get some post oak in there, but not a lot, just because it's not around this region as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's more Missouri, southern. But we go with lickety split firewood in Council Bluffs. Awesome guy. If you guys ever want firewood, hit up lickety split.
Nice.
He delivers it to us about once a month. But yeah, just oak.
How much wood do you order at any one given time?
Like 7. I think 8. We're up to like 8 crates. So those big totes that carry like chemicals and stuff. 8 of those full, about once a month.
Wow, that's a lot.
So it's about $1,000 a month in wood.
and so as far as time goes, we talked about you've got the prep of trimming a brisket, seasoning a brisket. What type of things do you have to do after the smoke is complete before you go again? What's the after maintenance look like?
A lot of cleaning. When you smoke, it produces a lot of grease, like an unimaginable amount, like buckets full. So that's first and foremost, is making sure there's not grease dripping anywhere on the ground, stuff like that. Just got to make sure we clean up after ourselves.
Yeah, you want to make sure everything's good to go. You don't want to slip on any grease or anything.
Yeah, scrape down the grates, clean the grates and everything for the next meat that's going to go on. It's a lot more than just running a normal kitchen when you have those 2 smokers.
Yeah. Do you have like large ash pans that you have to then clean out too before you restock?
Yeah.
And then
Wow. So those fire boxes get full of ash. So we scoop out usually once a week.
Gotcha. And so during the smoking process, how often or do you have to stock wood during the cook? Or are you able to put enough in there where it just goes, or like, how does that
No, you gotta babysit it. It's about every 20 to 30 minutes. You got to add some wood, see where the temperatures are at, see what the wood's looking like, if it's igniting right. Sometimes you get wood that's wet, that's a little more wet than others. So yeah, it's all around. It's just an art. not every day is going to be the same.
Well, and when we're talking time on brisket, so it's not to use a commercial phrase, it's not a set it and forget it. So you're putting wood on there every 20, 30 minutes, give or take a little bit.
For 8 hours,
8 hours, and heavens. That's a full employee shift right there, just making sure that's so you don't, nothing wrong with the pellet smoke or anything like that, but you don't have an auto feeder that's just dropping in stuff. Like you're putting wood back on there all the time.
Yeah, our smokers, they're not electrical, they don't plug in or anything, so the only heat source they get is from the wood, and that's how we love to do it.
Man, so
we like it to do it the hard way.
Classic stick burner and keeping an eye on it, and just that. So like you said, that art and that craft are there all the time. So wow.
Hopefully people can taste the love.
Oh yeah, well I know I have when I got the brisket. So it's absolutely
the
delicious.
only propane we use is, I call it our flamethrower. We just hook it up to a propane tank, and that's how we start the fires.
And after that,
it's my favorite part. It's fun.
For sure. Probably that. There you go. Playing with fire in a controlled and safe manner, people. Always, be careful there. So
yes.
Well, perfect. So, all right. Before we kind of wind it down here, so I can let you get back to your family, friends, and those tortas that you're going to make here. So it sounds like some steak and some things are other happening. Let you throw this out there at your option. Any restaurants around town that when you're not eating at Jay's that maybe you like to go to, or even out of town if people are traveling or hanging around, that you want to get out there?
I love Blue and Fly Asian cuisine.
Oh yeah,
on 72nd. That's some of my favorite Asian cuisine. Corner Kitchen.
Oh gosh,
one of my favorite places to go to. I mean,
off of 50th and G there.
I could go every day. If I could.
Yeah, Mexican Asian fusion happening there. So good. You got a favorite thing there at Corner Kitchen you like to order?
Their burrito tacos are just awesome. Out of this world. They're so good. I don't really have a favorite. It's everything. Yeah, it's so good. As far as barbecue goes, I mean, barbecue has really stepped its game up in Omaha the past 5 years or so, 6 years.
For sure.
I would say ever since Porky Butts came along. Smoke and Barrel, Wayne's been there for a long time, but I don't think Omaha's really gotten the recognition for barbecue until Blaine kind of came along. And I don't, that comes with, he's done so many competitions and he knows so many people, and word got out that was coming and it just blew up. So, Wayne at Smoke and Barrel does a fantastic job. I love his food. He's a great guy. He's a veteran. Blaine has helped me tremendously through this whole process. So he looked at the new spot, the 96th and L spot, and said, this would be a good spot. So that's kind of what made us go there.
I love it. Oh, I didn't know that. That's very cool. And that's one of those things where the Omaha food community is very supportive of each other. Years ago, well, it's been a couple years, when Tired Texan had a fire. I know that some of the other barbecue places in town were like, hey, do you need to put some meat on my smoker? How can we help? How can we do those things? Or like in this case, Blaine from Porky Butts, theoretically, you guys are in competition. If somebody wants a brisket sandwich that day, there's a couple of options. You two are both one of them. And for him to extend his hand and go, sure, let's take a look at this together and see if this would be a good spot. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I do. It's awesome. And we'll remember that forever. You make impressions on people, and he's been a great help. I mean, not even just stuff like that. It's just like, hey, you should stay off social media. Like, he'll send me a text like, hey, you shouldn't post that. So, that's a big learning curve for me, as I'm young and, I like to talk, and social media gives me a voice. And I've gotten in trouble sometimes, but I've learned a lot.
Sure.
He's helped me a lot. So.
Yeah, it's a hard space to navigate, and social media is both a blessing and a curse, because you can get your food out there, and then also there's a negative side to it as well. So I totally understand navigating that is challenging. So it's nice to have we'll say maybe a mentor, a friend,
people that care,
that there you go, people that care, that reach out. And that's what we were talking about. If you have a meal at any restaurant and it's not what you thought it should be, please go see the people at that restaurant. Because, by the way, it's the service and hospitality industry. People got in that business, hopefully to put a smile on a face, and they want to hear from you directly so they can make changes. And also, if it was good, make sure you tell them it's good too. I mean, that's equally important.
Well, for sure, because as a restaurant owner, if we find out the next day that the brisket was bad, it's like, well, how many other people did we serve that to? And it's like, you could have nicked it right there, and we could have, gotten you a better plate. And then, the people behind you don't get that brisket either. But that's on us too. We shouldn't have brisket that doesn't go out. But it happens. Barbecue's tough, especially when you're checking the fire every 30 minutes and for 8 hours and blah, 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 blah. So
and like you said, every brisket's, different. Some are bigger, some are smaller, whatever they came from an animal, and they are of different sizes and compositions. It's just,
I want people to think we're in this together. We want good product to go out. We don't want bad product to go out. So if our customers realize that and that they're in this together, then they can help us be like, hey, this wasn't the best,
Sure.
We can fix it.
Every meal that I've had from Jay's has been very delicious. I think the new location is presenting you with the opportunity to create barbecue in a space exactly the way that you want. It's James Hawk's place. It's yours. So that's fantastic. And you can shape it and create those smiles as you see fit, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so if people want to find you, let's get that address out there one more time. Where is the restaurant?
4725 South 96th Street, Omaha. It's right on the corner of 96th and L. There's a strip mall there, and we're inside of there. You'll see the sign.
Perfect. And, of course, if people want to know, so you run specials because you don't want to get bored and you want to put some new fun things out there, where's the best places to find out what the heck is going on at Jay's Smokehouse?
Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect.
100%. We post twice a day. Midday we'll post if we're running low on anything, or at night we'll post when we are out of things. So it's super important that everybody follows us, because that's about the only way they'll find out, unless they get all the way to the restaurant, ask for something, and then we say we're out. That's frustrating. So
perfect.
We want to give people an option to look online, to see if we're out of anything.
Obviously, and I'll say this for any restaurant, do please check ours on social and also Google, or you can always call the restaurant. That's always a good move too. But as of us talking here today, when is the restaurant open?
Yeah, so we are closed Sunday and Monday. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then we close at 2 p.m. until 4:30, and then we're open 4:30 to 8.
Awesome. So lunch and dinner available, but not on Sunday and Monday. Don't because James needs a day off too. So
got to clean the smokers.
Oh, no doubt, right? So you're working even on the quote unquote day off, even when the doors are locked.
Oh yeah.
So,
Never stops.
And even today, I pulled you in here on your day off. So once again, James, thank you so much for coming to talk with me, and thank you for when I came into the restaurant. You stopping over and saying hi and whatnot, and I really appreciate that. So thanks for coming to talk with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you do, getting the word out there for all little restaurants like us.
I really appreciate it. And we'll sign it off here. And this is Dave with Saturday Omaha. And as we say, until we eat again, stay hungry. Bye.
Our show is recorded and produced by Saturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.